Hi, welcome. My name is Jenny Bartz. I'm the administrator of Crossroads Christian School, and this is the seminar about preparing your student for college. How to get your student to college or preparing for college seminar. And we're going to go over several topics today, so I'm glad you joined us. This is for anyone, whether you're with Crossroads or not, that it might be helpful for you as you prepare to get your student to college. There are many options that your student may have to choose from when they get out of high school after graduation. College is just one of them. We cover several other options in the How to Homeschool Through High School seminar that we have, and you'll find that on our website under the media tab as well. So I encourage you to take a look at that as well. It might be very helpful. So the first thing when you are looking at preparing your child for college or your student is to gather information, which you're listening to this seminar, so that's one of the steps right there. You want to read books, go to websites, gather information, come to seminars like this to prepare yourself. Just so that you'll know, dual enrollment is a wonderful opportunity to jumpstart your student in their college experience. We cover that in depth at that Homeschool Through High School seminar as well, so we'll be looking at that. The internet is a great way to gather information for your college search. We will have a handout available on the website so that you can print that, which is the handout that goes with this, and I have some of the websites listed there. The following two websites have a wealth of information about preparing for college. There's the ACT website, act.org, and collegeboard.org. Those are great websites that have a wealth of information. So I encourage you to go to those websites, just look all around and see what you can find there. A good way to begin preparing colleges is to use some sort of national ranking that's out there. Here are two websites I have. One is the U.S. News Best Colleges Ranking. That's a good one to look at. But be aware that what is important in the ranking for the organizations when they're doing those rankings, it may not be important to you. So check and see what the criteria is being used when they rank these schools. This does not substitute, though, for personal visits or asking God to direct your steps. So make sure that you're doing that as well. It is simply an objective way to compare colleges. Useful information that you'll find there is the sizes of the college, where they're located, how many students in each class, how many do they accept. So those are all things that you'll find at that website. Use that information to ask questions, to decide what colleges that you even want to look at, but not to make your final decision. So make sure you're looking at that. And then PrincetonReview.com, college rankings, best colleges, also is another great website that you can find information. And just to know that all colleges are going to have their own website. So I encourage you, when your student is interested in a specific college, to just go to that college's website. It's usually always going to end with a .edu. Make sure you're on their official website and look at the information that they have there. Another way to start preparing is going to college fairs, and there are different ones that they hold during the year. It's usually in the beginning of the year. There is the National College Fair, which actually was just held last week, which would have been the first week of September, and that one was down at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center. And that sometimes it's held at different places. It's been at the Hoover Met before. This year it was at the BJCC. So next year, if you didn't catch it this year, pay attention. We always try to put that in our newsletters, so pay attention to when those are going to be, and you can go to that. Another great one is the Christian College Fair, which is the naccap.org. And that's going to be Wednesday, October 30th from 12 to 2 at Westminster Private School over by Oak Mountain off of Highway 119. So when you think about why should I go to these things, you get to ask questions from people who are representing the college. Always fun. They always have bling that they hand out as well. So you can do that, but they'll have seminars that they hold during those things. And nothing substitutes being able to talk to someone who actually is working for that college, and often they'll have students who are going to that college, and you can ask questions. A lot of times you don't know what you don't know until you start asking the questions. And when you start talking to people from the colleges, questions will come up. And I guess instead of bling, it's really swag. So they'll have things like cups and pencils, and it's just fun to go around. And the Christian College Fair has been fantastic. I've gone to that several times, and they have a wealth of information that you can get there. The other thing is to go to these colleges. Once your student has narrowed down some that they're interested in, go and make visits to those colleges. Check and see when their preview days are. They'll have special seminars planned for those days. They'll often will be maybe a weekend. Sometimes they have it set up so that your student can actually go and go to classes and maybe stay over for the weekend with another student. So there'll be different ways that it's set up. So look at that. Check out the college websites and find out when they would have those special weekends. Now, when you go to one of those, they're going to tend to be a larger experience, and which can be very beneficial because they're planning this for a lot of people. So therefore, they're going to have the different seminars and different classes that you can go to as a parent and your student can go to find out different things about the college. So there's great value in that. And then there's another opportunity that you could go is just to call and set up a private visit with the university. Generally, you can go on their website and set up a campus visit, and you'll go, and if there are other people who have signed up for that same time slot, then they may take a golf cart and take you around. They'll have somebody who's in charge of doing that, and they give great tours. Now, they're not going to have those seminars, but you get a little more of a personal experience. We have done both, and I enjoyed both. I found benefits to both. So look at that and just see which one might work best for you. I have notes as we go along, so I'll be referring to that to make sure that I don't miss anything, because I don't want to miss anything to tell you. Okay. When we toured the University of Alabama in Huntsville, my student got to actually go and sit in on the classes. We called ahead and we made the visit time, but we also called and talked to the person in the department that she was interested in being. She wants to be a teacher. She wanted to be a teacher. And so we called the Department of Education and said, hey, we're going to be doing a site visit. Can we please come and sit down and talk with someone? And that was great. We got to meet the Dean of Education. She was wonderful. And she really gave us a picture into the program, took us on a little tour of the department, which was very helpful. When you go on those, even if you go to a private tour, they're going to take you and show you the dorms and take you all around the campus, and you'll be able to see those. So they're great. The other thing is, do those college visits. Allow your student to dream big. A lot of times, parents will dissuade their student from looking at some private universities because private universities tend to be more expensive. That's true. But what people often forget is the private schools often have more scholarships to give. And so don't ever discount that. At least if your student is interested in it, take a look and go and see what God has in store for your student. So don't automatically say no. We did campus visits to Montevallo. We went to Jacksonville State. We went to UAH. My son went to LeTourneau University out in Texas. So all of those were great places to go and do site visits. We went to University of Alabama, University of Auburn University. So we did all of those different types of visits. Generally, when they had the big events, they'll set up free application dates. So you may be able to register and apply to the school for free if you do it within a certain amount of time after going to that visit. Another thing is there's a free application week every year. And just stay on top of that. Be watching the news. You can Google it. It's different every year. This year, I have seen that the University of Alabama's is going to be mid-October. So generally, it's always sometime in October. And usually, you'll find information on the major news links. So ABC 3340 will generally have that information. I try to post it. When I get the information, I try to post it on our Facebook page as well. I do want to give you one caution. So you're going to start making these site visits. I encourage you to do it sooner rather than later, because if a student is looking at a university, then they really need to be filling out applications for scholarships. And those scholarship deadlines tend to be pretty early. Sometimes they're October, November, December at the latest. So you want to start making those site visits sometime in their 11th grade year. So start looking at those. Then the caution is be careful and not put a lot of pressure on your student. Just going and trying to answer where do I want to go to college, what do I want to major in, is pretty stressful. And I like to say to my students, most 40-year-olds don't know what they want to be when they grow up. So it's a lot of stress to ask a 16 or 17-year-old, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Allow them some space. The reality is you need to play it down, stress less. Talk to them about their interests. Maybe do job shadowing. Do they like to work inside? Do they like to work outside? Could they imagine themselves at a computer all day? Some people could, some people don't want to do that. So talk about these things. A new curriculum has come across my desk recently called Edge Factor, which is a great career exploration curriculum, and it's all online. And these people have created a really high quality product to where you name the job, and they've gone and they've interviewed people. So your student gets to watch a video, high quality video of life in the day of this person who has that job and what it's like to work in that job. And there's inventory tests that they do. It's all very creatively done. So I encourage you to look that up. It's called Edge Factor. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but I think it's worth it. When I checked, I had a Zoom meeting with them, and I was very impressed with what I saw. So if you end up doing that, please let me know, because I would like to know your experience. It's a fairly new product that's out there. So that is very, very good. And if you want to contact me at office@crossroadschristian.us, I have a flyer that I can send you on that as well. Now, one of my students wanted to go directly to the University of Alabama in Huntsville when she graduated. But we knew that one other option was to do a junior college for 2 years and then transfer in. So I asked her to sit down and do a project. I asked her to do a cost analysis on what it would cost for everything if she did 2 years at our local university, our local junior college, and then transferred versus going straight. Everything from tuition to meal plans to living expenses and other expenses. And she had to come up with all of that. And it was a real eye-opener. It was hard because it was kind of painful to be able to see this is how much it's going to cost. And for our particular situation and in our family, for this student, it made the most sense financially for her to go to 2 years at a junior college and then transfer in, which is what she ended up doing. And after she graduated, she did come back and say, Mom, that was the best decision for me. I was not ready at that point in my life to transfer or to go straight to the college. So she was very glad that we had chosen to do that. So look at that with your student and just look at the different options. See what's best for your family, what's best for your student. Okay, the next thing on the list is Academic Common Market. The Academic Common Market is a tuition savings program for college students in 15 Southern Regional Education Board states who want to pursue degrees that are not offered by public institutions in their home state. You can go to a college in a neighboring state for in-state tuition cost. Check their website and see what schools and programs qualify and what the requirements are. For example, you have to keep a certain GPA. You can't change your major while you're in there. So take a look at that. It's called Academic Common Market. There's a whole website dedicated to it. And we have students who have benefited from that. Okay, the academic process. Every college is different, but there are similarities in colleges as well. Some use what is called the Common App or Common Application, which can be used for a number of colleges. So they would fill out the Common Application and upload all of their information, and then they would invite me as the administrator at our school to access that. And then I could go and access, and there's one place that I would upload information, a recommendation letter if needed, and their transcript. And then all those schools that they're applying for can access that information in one place. It's pretty handy. So if you're interested in doing that and you're a member of Crossroads, then you want to look for the one that has our office at crossroadschristian.us email address and my name, Jenny Bartz. So look at that, and then the invitation would be sent to me and I can take it from there. The other thing is, if you go that route, one of the things that I have to fill out and upload is what you're taking in your senior year. So if you do the Common App, go ahead and have your parent fill out what you're taking in your senior year and send that to me at the office, so I will have that. Now, some combination of the following is probably going to be required in your admission process. Most around our area use the old-fashioned way of just asking for a transcript to be sent to the university, which is absolutely fine. Actually, we may prefer that. We're just learning the steps of using the Common App, and it can be helpful if you're going to be applying to multiple universities. Narrow down your choices. Have your student look at what their favorite ones are and narrow it down to 3 or 5, because you are going to have to make application to all those. And unless you get in the application free week, then there's a cost every time you apply. So look at that, make sure that you've got that narrowed down, and then go through that. Actually, the University of Alabama one this year in 2025 is October 6th through 10th. And generally, they're all in the same week. So I'm waiting to see if the other universities have that same week. Often, what is needed is a counselor recommendation or a pastor or a youth pastor recommendation letter. You want someone to fill that out that knows your student really well. Sometimes someone will come and ask me to fill out a recommendation. And if I don't know the student very well, I will ask, is there someone who maybe would be better at filling this out than me? Maybe your youth pastor, or if you're in Key Club, maybe the Key Club advisor, somewhere where that person really knows you. So make sure that you look at that. Now, I will tell you, if you ask me to do it, the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to send me a resume. So help your student start as early as the 9th grade to create a portfolio for everything that they do in that year. If they get a certificate, it could be a 3-ring binder for every year, or divided in that 3-ring binder. Put the things in there, but keep a written account of what they're doing. If they're involved in Key Club and they're volunteering for things, that needs to be recorded, because I will tell you, when your student gets to be a senior and you're filling out these applications and it's asking these questions and you're trying to go back and remember what did we do in the 9th grade, it's rather hard to do. So if you will stay on top of that and keep all of that information together, help them create a resume of all of their educational experiences and non-academic. So if they have been working, put when they started and when they finished, or if still till present. If they have been volunteering, put that information down there. Anything would be helpful in knowing that. It creates a picture of your student. Education, leadership, extracurricular, employment, community service. And then a transcript. Everyone is going to need a transcript. With Crossroads, we create the transcript for you. That's what Miss Lori does. Most church schools are going to do that for you. Or if not, if you're using the private school law, then you're going to have to create that yourself. So you want that to look as normal as possible. You're going to have a student application, and that'll be online. And then there'll generally always be a student essay or a personal testimony. A lot require a personal essay. A Christian college may ask you to tell about yourself. Secular colleges may have an essay of an assigned topic, or you may choose between a few. Make sure that if they are recycling these essays that they do, make sure that you make it specific to the university or the scholarship that you're applying to. No embarrassing moments of sending a scholarship application to one place when it was has the name of another place that you just recently did. So stay on top of that and make sure that you make it personalized to the college or the scholarship that you're applying. And again, that's why we say start early. It's difficult to do all of this. It takes time. When you apply online and then it has all this information and the deadline is a few days away by midnight, you can't come and ask someone for an academic scholarship or a recommendation letter at that point. When someone comes to me and asks for a recommendation letter, I always say, give me at least 2 weeks. And so if you ask someone, and when that 2 weeks is up, you can politely go back and say, just a reminder, is there anything else that I need to get to you for the recommendation letter? And that's a polite nudge, just in case we have forgotten, because things get pretty busy and that might happen. So stay on top of it. Use a calendar. Make sure that you know when your deadlines are. Okay. As I mentioned, there is usually an application fee when you're applying. So watch for those deadlines. Watch for when the deadline for scholarship applications are. Use a Google Calendar, something that will notify you of when those deadlines are so you can stay on top of it. Okay, financing college. Sometimes, as I mentioned, we don't even look at those bigger schools or those private universities because of cost, but be willing to let your student dream big. So ask, seek, and knock. Now we're going to talk about some terms that may be new to you if this is your first student trying to go to college. One is the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That's something you must complete for nearly all colleges to be considered for all financial aid, including grants, scholarships, and loans. Super important. Almost all colleges require it. If the school does not receive any federal funds, like maybe Highlands College, then you are going to have to fill that out. It's an initial screening tool. In fact, in the state of Alabama, the public schools have started that being mandatory, that they have to fill that out in their senior year. We do not fall under that. It is not required. But if you're going to go to a college, you definitely need to do that. I had a family that I asked if they had done their FAFSA, and the parents said, no, we're not going to do that because I know they wouldn't qualify for Pell Grants, so we're not going to do it. And I said, no, you need to do it because then your student can also qualify for lots of other type of scholarships and grants and free money. So you want to make sure that you do fill that out. When you go to fill it out, I encourage you to just Google how to fill out the FAFSA and watch some videos. They're very helpful. So look at that information. Make sure that you have all the information you're going to need with you when you sit down. It takes some time, but it's doable. You're going to have your tax returns from the previous couple years. Have that. Have your bank information with you, all the information that you need. It can be a headache, but you can do it. There's a pen that you're going to have to create, so have a little card that you're going to be able to write this information down because you will refer back to that pen each year. Save it from year to year. Okay, scholarships and grants. Money that does not need to be repaid. Those are the things that we really want to get for our students. Something also to remember in here. This is a lot of information. There's a lot of things that you have to do, and you need to walk through this process with your student. This is not something that you would just turn your student loose and say, you're on your own. This is something you need to walk with them, and they can be very successful in it, but there's a lot of details and a lot of information. You should not be doing it without your student. You should be doing it with your student. So make sure you're doing that. Okay, so the scholarships and the grants, the money that doesn't have to be paid back. Family income has to demonstrate a financial need. Grants are a gift. They don't have to be repaid. College Financial Aid Office is the best source of this information. There are merit-based scholarships, need-based, academic, institutional, and departmental. But also check with foundations, religious organizations, community organizations, civic groups, organizations related to your field of interest. For example, if your student's interested in the education field, then look at those specific things. Medical, legal. Check with your employer or your parents' employers, or your union or your parents' unions, military, ROTC, National Guard, federal Pell Grants, federal supplemental education opportunities, teacher education assistant for college and higher education. Grant, the education grant, Iraq and Afghanistan service grant, all of this information. There are large books that you can check out of the library. There's a new one every year about scholarships. They're very unique scholarships. Did you know that there's a scholarship for left-handed people? So there's very unique. You really have to do a lot of searching, but there is a lot of information that's free out there that you can look up. Now, there are scholarship apps, those books that I mentioned, that can help. There are your local junior college has scholarships, Jeff State, Academic, CTE. There are counselor scholarships. Crossroads has a counselor scholarship that we get to put a name forth for both an academic and a CTE, career tech education, name forth. And in order to apply for that for Crossroads for Jeff State, we have an application that you fill out. And then once it's chosen, the name that we put forward, they get 2 years free at Jeff State, full tuition paid. So there's that one. There's dual enrollment scholarships. If you have been taking dual enrollment at a junior college and you want to go on and do 2 years at that junior college, there are dual enrollment scholarships. You had to have taken a certain number, so just look those up. Any college, you can look and see what their scholarship. They'll have a page dedicated to scholarships, so look at that. There are second year scholarships. I messed up in this one because I did not realize there were second year scholarships. So when my student did a first year at a junior college, I did not realize that there were ones that we could have looked at for her to apply for a second year. So look for those. There's the Republican scholarship. There's St. Clair Gardeners Club scholarship application, departmental scholarships, transfer scholarships. If your student is at a junior college and they score very well and they get something in the mail from Phi Theta Kappa, which is an honor society, and it says, hey, you can join our organization for $70. That's what it was a few years ago, maybe more now, but you can join our organization. You need to look at whatever that is, but if it is Phi Theta Kappa, that is actually an organization that functions on campus that your student can actually go and be a part of. A lot of times with junior colleges, that's a problem. There's not something that they can go and be a part of. So that's a wonderful thing to be a part of. And then when they transfer to a four-year university, sometimes that college will have a Phi Theta Kappa transfer scholarship. That was the experience for my student. She transferred to UAH and got a transfer scholarship with Phi Theta Kappa. So that was lovely. Okay, this is something that's been shocking to me with all of these scholarships. A shocking lack of students filling out the applications. It is hard work, and you need to work with your student to do this information, but there's no reason they can't do it. We had, I'm a member of Kiwanis in St. Clair County West, and we had scholarships available. And I had one student apply for 2 scholarships. And that was shocking to me because there were many students who would have qualified, but they didn't take the time to fill out the application. So have that conversation with your student and encourage them to put the work in to do what's needed. So there are some websites out there that are good places for looking for scholarships. One is the College Board, which I mentioned. There's U.S. News Scholarship Finder. There's one called Appily, A-P-P-I-L-Y. It's formerly known as CAPEX. And then there's JLV College Counseling. The information I received on that one was that you do have to sift a lot with that one, but it's worth looking at. And then there's one called Unigo, U-N-I-G-O. Those are websites. And then there are some apps that you can be involved in and look for scholarships. There's a scholarship system app, the Google Calendar. And the reason I say Google Calendar, it's not going to find scholarships for you, but if you're looking for scholarships, those deadlines for all the different scholarships, there are many of them, and so you need to keep track of them. And so you can put them in your Google Calendar and set notifications to remind you. Then there's one that came up as very popular called Scholly, S-C-H-O-L-L-Y, and it's a database of a lot of different scholarships. Then there's one called Raise Me. It's based on accomplishments, and I think that one might be worth. I saw some good reviews on that one. Then, so that was one talking about scholarships and grants, money that you do not have to pay back. And then there are student loans. Loans for students, and there are loans for parents. There are direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized. Direct Plus are subsidized student loans. Perkins are unsubsidized student loans. Plus are subsidized loans for parents. And you can look up www.studentaid.ed.gov. Now, subsidized means you do not have to start paying it back until you graduate. Unsubsidized means that there is interest accruing along the way. The Parents Plus loan is a U.S. Department of Education. That is your lender. When you get your financial aid package, let's say that you've applied, you've done everything, you've filled out all of your scholarship applications, and the day finally comes when you get your financial aid package. It's a very exciting day, but I want to caution you. You need to look at it very closely, because it will come back and it will say, we have met all of your financial needs. We can provide you with all of the money that you need in order to go to our institution. But you need to look at those. It'll say it's 100% financial aid, but remember, a lot of those are loans. And you as a family need to determine what you're going to do. Are you going to help them? Are you going to help them take out a loan? Are you going to take out a loan? Make sure they understand that if they take out a loan or you're taking out a loan, they need to come out with a marketable skill that will allow them to start paying back on their loans. How much debt? Have hard conversations about how much debt is acceptable for your student to accrue so that when they get out, they can pay it back over time. What about a degree? If you come out with a degree that's pretty generic and you really can't name a job that you would look for, I would question that. You need to be very careful and make sure. My motto has always been marketable skill. Be thinking these things through now. Will they be able to get a job with that degree that will allow them to pay back the loan? How much can they realistically pay back? So you're going to have to do some future thinking with your student and help them. That's where it can come in handy to do the project. Have them sit down and do a cost analysis for what college costs. They need to know that. It doesn't need to be an abstract concept. It needs to be something that they understand, so that when they get to actually go to college, they understand what it's costing. They understand what it's costing you, what it's costing them, and what it's going to require when they graduate. So these are hard conversations to have. It can be upsetting conversations, because just because we want something doesn't mean we can always have exactly what we want. And there are different ways to pull things off to get a college degree. So look at that. Good opportunity for critical thinking. Work study. On your package, you may see work study. That's federal, state, and campus-based programs for working on campus. It's tax-free money for campus jobs. Usually it's a low-paying job on campus, but the pros of it, your student is on campus. And often the job is something that during the downtime, they can study, which can be very handy. So if they're working in the library during the downtimes, they can pull their books out and study. If they're working behind the desk at the gymnasium and they're checking people in at 6 or 7 in the morning and it's really slow, they can pull their books out and start studying. So look at that. All right, the next section is academic preparation for college. How to get into college. That's what you're aiming for. So first of all, the course of study. You want to make sure that you are preparing them for what God has them to do. You don't know what that is. Your goal is to provide for them a broad base of academic education as you can. Look at the college and see what their requirements are. Look at the college that they want to go to and see what those requirements are and follow that. This can be tricky depending on, especially if you're going to do the transfer in from a junior college. We had the experience where my student wanted to go into the education department, and if she chose one university, the requirement was different than if she had chosen another university. And it was a small thing, like, for example, if you went to this university, you needed 2 semesters of a foreign language. And if you went to this one, the foreign language wouldn't have been accepted. You needed 2 in this section. Well, that meant that she needed to determine pretty early on where she wanted to go so that she took the right amount of classes and the correct classes to get into the place she was transferring into. So make sure that you're looking at that. Make sure you keep good track of what books you have used, your curriculum, maybe the title, publisher, table of contents, copy of the front page of each book in case you're ever given you need to account for it, especially if you're doing NCAA. If you have a student who is into sports and there's a chance that they will go on an NCAA scholarship, you need to definitely take that serious and keep good track on what they've done, because you will have to list all of that. So just think ahead. Remember that Crossroads graduation requirements are different than the state of Alabama's requirements. And that's on purpose, because not all of our students need the same requirement, and we do not want to put that on that requirement onto everyone. So what's listed here in your handout is the current state requirements for a high school graduation in the state of Alabama. But be aware of what the colleges specify as admission requirements. Some state colleges say that they require the equivalent of an Alabama high school diploma, which means the following requirements. But you may look at a university and they don't require that, and they require even less than what's listed on the state. So just the most important information is really honing in on the specific school that your student is interested in planning to go to. So as you see on your handout here, for the state, there's 4 units of English, 4 units of math, including algebra 1 and 2 and geometry, 4 units of science. It must include biology and a physical science. Social studies, 4 units, 1 world history, geography, 2 U.S. history, a half of government and a half of economics, 1 unit of PE, career preparedness. And career preparedness is 3 things combined together. So if you're homeschooling, that's going to be career exploration, financial education, and computer. And so for Crossroads, we require a half a credit of computer applications. And so that would be important, all those 3 things, if you're going to look at that. And then a half a credit of health, and then CTE, career and technical education, and/or foreign language or arts education. And then there's electives. So the total is, the minimum is 24 credits. And as you know, on our website, and we've talked a lot, especially in the how to homeschool through high school, use the 4-year planner. The 4-year planner is just a 4-block where you're looking 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. You're looking at what the requirements are, and you're taking a piece of paper, that paper and a pencil, and you're penciling in English 9, English 10, English 11, English 12, and then place all of your classes in pencil, because then you can go and change it. You can add, well, which math are we going to do where? Which English are we going to do where? And just something to know, for our records, anything you do relating to English gets called English. So if it's composition or Brit Lit, it's all going to be called English on the transcript. Now, a future tip that I did want to go over with you is something called the Alabama Transfer Program. It used to be called the STARS program, but now it's called the Alabama Transfer Program, and you can Google it and look it up. So it's a statewide transfer and articulation reporting system. This allows public 2-year students in Alabama to obtain a transfer guide agreement for the major of their choice. This guide agreement if used correctly, guides the student through his or her first 2 years of coursework to prevent the loss of credit hours upon transfer to the appropriate public 4-year university in Alabama. Look at the colleges your student is interested in and print the course of study for the program and use it as a guide. That is super helpful. We did that and it helped, and she was able to roll right into UAH with no problems. The problem comes in if you're not paying attention to that, then you can either go on to your next school and pay more for the student to take those courses there, and it's going to take them longer, or it's going to delay entry into their next school because you're having to stay at the junior college to finish up all the coursework at a lower price that they need before they transfer. So just keep a watch on that. Okay, now for the well-rounded student. Schools want to see a well-rounded student. It is not all about academics. Extracurricular things are important. These activities can show dedication, perseverance, distinctive talents and often provide a platform for developing leadership abilities. So, extracurricular accomplishments are definitely important. Often, I have a parent who will come to me and they'll turn in their grades, and they have a lot of extracurricular activity listed on their grades, thinking that it's going to be put on their transcript, and it's not. And often they'll say, "Hey, my students in Key Club, I want to count that." Well, okay, that does not count. And I can understand there's a part where the parent feels like, well, wait a minute, they're working on this. They need to get credit for it somewhere. And they're missing the fact that these extracurricular activities are going to be needed when they apply for college, when they fill out the scholarship, and when they fill out the application in general. So there will be a place for all of those extracurricular activities to shine for your student. So you need to keep good track of those things that they've been doing. Okay. It shows also that they weren't just sitting at home. Your student can be very brilliant and very education minded and academic minded, but if that's all they've been doing, then they're not going to be looked at as well as if they had well-rounded activities. Crossroads offers we offer more activities than everybody should be involved in, but we do give our students the opportunities to be involved in Key Club and dance and yearbook and dramas and choir. So there are several things that can be listed. But remember all the things that they're doing at their churches and volunteer work and babysitting. All of those things have a place when you're filling out your applications. So that's really great. Help them starting in 9th grade to start filling out a resume, a portfolio or resume that I mentioned earlier. Make it detailed. It will save you so much if you'll start doing that early and write down everything that they're doing and just keep it. If you're in the upper grades, brainstorm with your student all of those different things and get it on paper now so that when you're starting to apply, you're not having to come up with that off the cuff like I did. Okay, test taking. These are graded achievement tests. PSAT, SAT, ACT, and the PSAT and ACT, there's writing portions are optional. Test scores, unfortunately, mean a lot for academic scholarships. Test scores may not be required for admission. Often, they are still a main thing that are looked at for some scholarships. For example, Jacksonville this year has both, and I was pleasantly surprised that the GPA actually got more scores than more financial scholarship than a high ACT score. But on the other hand, looking at some of the other colleges like Alabama, the higher your ACT score, the more financial scholarship you could receive. So even though it may not be required to get into the school, it may be required for the merit-based scholarship. So I encourage you to encourage your student to learn how to take those tests. There are free test taking things like on Khan Academy. They've teamed up with the College Board, and for the SAT, there's prep material on there. There are different organizations that you can do test prep. All Pencils Down is a great one in the Birmingham area. And then there are books you can get on test taking. So I would encourage you to have your student do some preparation, take the test, do more preparation, and take it as many times as you feel is necessary. But also do know that try not to put a lot of pressure on your student. There's a lot of me in my heart, I hate that scores are such a big deal, because we have students, as you look at the student as a whole person, their strengths may not be in the test taking section. They may be gifted in the arts, and that's not going to show up on the test. So make sure that your student knows that that is not a statement of value. Those students who are not test takers are strong in other areas. Be sensitive to that. Scores do not validate or show value in any way. So make sure that you have those hard conversations with your student. Okay, the next sections. These are some skills that are going to be needed for college. The first one is note taking. Make sure your student has the ability to take notes. And a lot of times, homeschoolers, we don't stand in front of our students and lecture. So you have to find creative ways for your student to learn to take notes. Maybe on sermons, if they're watching a video of a class, make sure that they can take notes, have them take notes on a book that they're reading, maybe have them listen to a podcast and take notes. So they need to learn this skill. The next one is research and library skills. Make sure that they are able to discern truth, accuracy, and make sure that they know safety on the internet. That's more important than ever, and it's getting harder than ever to know what is true. So make sure that your student has those research and library skills. Make sure they have computer skills. Now at Crossroads, we do require half a credit in computer applications. So these are things: word processing, Excel, PowerPoint, email, online courses. It's important for many jobs. No matter what your student is going to be doing, they need these computer skills. Make sure that they've had experience in working in projects that require independent work. They need to be self-motivated and ready to meet deadlines. Also, make sure that they have the ability to work in groups with other people on projects. It's not always fair. When they get to college, they're going to be in groups. Often professors will assign a project and they'll say, okay, you 4 people, you're going to be doing this project. And all those 4 people are supposed to be pulling equal weight, and they have to work at how they're going to do what. Often, that's not the way it goes down. Often, a couple of those people really are like sleds, and they don't really want to do anything. But unfortunately, the grade, everybody's going to get the same grade, and it's a group grade, whether 2 people do all the work or all 4 people do all the work. So make sure your student learns to speak up for themselves, learns to encourage other people, to pull the best out of them, hold people accountable, and figure out how to do things. So working in a group. Make sure that your student can read college level books. Read, not just novels and fiction. This is very different. If your student finds that they are a little slow in reading, there are speed reading courses that you can get, and they're very effective. So that might be helpful. You want your student to be kind of reaching on their tiptoes when they're at their reading level. Not below it, but not too far above it. So they have to stretch to learn. Okay, critical thinking and analysis, verbally and in writing. Make sure that they're writing well. There are a lot of courses out there, IEW, Andrew Pudewa, he's one. There are a lot of different ways that your student can learn to write. Make sure you've got something that's effective and that they can learn to write. Critical thinking. They need to know to not take everything that they hear and see at face value as fact, because we all know that that's not the case. The information must be put through some lens, your personal beliefs, your thoughts, biblical thought, so that you can have discernment. Your student will be faced with information that is completely different than what they have learned. It is very good to be exposed to this, but they need tools to evaluate, and when they hear it and see it, to be able to call it what it is. Many kids get shipwrecked when they face opposition to what they believe, and they often have not been taught and understand why they believe what they believe. They've grown up in the church, they've gone to church, maybe have made a profession of faith, but they're going to get out in the world where they're going to get attacks and hear information that's completely different. So we need to be willing to have those conversations now while they're in their home, so we can have those hard conversations so that when they're out there, they'll know. And the other thing is making sure that the faith that they've grown up with is their own, that they have made it their own faith, not just going because they go with their family to church. Make sure it's part of their belief. Part of the preparation is making sure that they are armed with the beliefs, morals, and convictions, and that they have made them their own. Okay, next little point there. Adhere to a semester syllabus. Learn how to budget time. Make sure that they have learned how to do this. Teach them how to keep their own calendar. When your student gets to be 9th, 10th grade, all these years, you have created the lesson plan and you've written down what they need to do for the week. That's probably the way most of us do it. But there needs to be a shift. At some point, I suggest that it becomes where you help them choose a planner, a yearly planner, and take them to the store and let them see all different kinds and let them pick out one that works, that they like best. And then when you have the week's worth of work, Sit down with your student and say, okay, this is what has to be done this week. How would you like to get it done? How would you like to lay your work out so that you have it all done by Friday? Now, a lot of our families are involved in the Friday activities, and it's a busy day, and so a lot of families get their work done on Monday through Thursday, and then Friday they come up here for all the extracurricular activities, which works great, but your student needs to know and decide how they're going to get all their coursework done. I had a situation where I had a student who worked at Chick-fil-A for many years, and several of those were in high school, and she would come home at night, and I had my schedule written such that she would need to be with us early in the morning. And she said, Mom, I really want to do my work at night when I get home because I'm wound up, came in late, and I'm not ready to just go to bed. Can I do some of my coursework, schoolwork at night? And well, guess what? Teenagers' circadian rhythm is different than other people, and truly they are more awake at night. And so she was doing her high-level classes, coursework, sometimes at 11 o'clock at night, and that worked best for her. So be willing to look at that. Help them learn how at a fairly young age. It could be 10th, 11th, but by 11th and 12th grade, it would be great if they are able to take the work, put it on their planner to how they're going to do it. And then here's the hard part. You have to hold them accountable to it. Don't assume it's happening. Make sure you see that it's happening. And that's how they'll learn. The next one is write. Make sure that they have lots of opportunities to write different kinds of essays, persuasive essays. Make sure that they can do that. And another one, make sure they have the ability to function away from their parents for an extended amount of time. As homeschoolers, that's not something that naturally happens. So you have to build that in so that the first time that they go away is not when they're going away to college. Make sure that you've created some opportunities for that. Maybe it's going to camp in the summer, going to grandma's for the summer, something so that they're away from you. Now here's a whole list of tasks. Make sure that your student knows how to do laundry. Make sure they know how to do mending. Can they sew a button back on? Can they do grocery shopping? Can they cook? Can they handle money? I suggest, and these are things that unless we're purposeful about it, even as homeschoolers, it doesn't necessarily always happen. Your goal for your student is not to only eat ramen noodles when they get to college. Hopefully they'll get to the point where they can cook. So a good way to do this is assign your students one night a week that they're in charge of the meal. And you have the opportunity to learn about nutrition. Make sure that you're teaching them what does a well-rounded meal look like, what does it have in it, and ask them to fill out a grocery list for what they need for the ingredients for their meal that night, and then have them go to the store with you and have them go pick out the ingredients that they need and get that. That's a great way to teach your students how to be responsible for a meal and actually to be able to cook. So those are some things. Make sure that your student knows where's their medical insurance card taken. When my student went to Texas to school, we had to look up out of state, where is the medical place that if he gets sick, he needs to go to, if it were something other than they could do on campus, because there is going to be, medical stuff on campus. But make sure they know that. Does your student know where to go for help? If they have car trouble, do they know where to call or where to take the car if there's an issue? Those are things that you need to talk about ahead of time. The next one is seek out help when needed. A lot of times our students would rather do anything than to talk to somebody. They'd rather text. They don't want to call. They would rather text. Make sure your student knows how to actually walk in and ask for help. If they're in a class and they're struggling, all the teachers, they have office hours that your student can go and ask for help. There are usually help sessions that they can go and get help. There is usually help sessions on campus. They can go for free to get help in any subject. Writing labs, math labs, it's available. They just need to look for that. Make sure that they know where to find it. And then make sure that the beliefs, convictions, and moral standards that the teen has adopted as their own is their own faith, and not just their parents, not just what they've been raised with, is the faith they're on. Center for Parent and Youth Understanding, CPYU, every week when this week's news goes out, it's at the bottom of it. I encourage you to make a habit of reading that every week. Going to their website, a wealth of information. You need to really be in tune with what's happening in their world. Help them to be able to do that and walk through it. Take the opportunity to listen to what they're listening to with them. Evaluate, critically think about it, and spend some time doing that. As you raise them, engage with your kids about faith and culture. Don't be shy about talking about hard topics. Your students need to know that there is no subject that they cannot come to you and talk about, that you're not going to think less of them, you're not going to love them less, you're not going to judge them, you're going to love them, you're their parent. So make sure that you don't shy away from the hard, uncomfortable topics. We are surrounded by good, by bad, and by neutral. Talk about what the Bible has to say about all these different topics of shows or music, or how parents are reflected in those shows or music. Just have good, honest conversations with your student. That is the material that I had, and again, we're going to have this posted, or if you don't see it on our website, contact me at office@crossroadschristian.us, and I will be glad to get the handout to you if we're not able to get it posted. Hopefully, we will get to be able to put it on the website. But thank you for taking the time. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions.